Okay guys, welcome back to the channel. Wearing my Kentucky Derby hat from yesterday. Actually, I was going to win the contest. I showed up too late. He said I would have won if I got there earlier. But I did win the horse race. Pure accident, though. I'm not a horse racing guru at all. Just pure accident. I guessed right. But in any case, I saw Angela there. Wife Acceptance Factor video on my channel. You recognize her? She's going to be back on the channel soon. Actually, she's going to be a wife. She just got engaged. And also Kimberly, my hairdresser, she's going to be on the channel soon. She manages a country music artist. So we're going to have both of them on the channel soon. So those of you guys that like the females, stay tuned. Also, got more to come from the Mark Levinson video. I'll have to break it up into so many parts that some of it will come after Munich because I leave tomorrow, Monday morning for Munich. Now, don't expect any coverage before the show actually starts. They're pretty strict about restricting access before and after hours for the press, but some people, you know, so many YouTubers now and press trying to cover and try to be first and whatnot. It's gotten to be a little bit problematic with vendors and stuff saying they're just not ready for people, and I want to respect that. I know working with Edgar, setting up a room, the last thing you want is press coming in and putting you on the spot before the show even starts. So don't expect a lot of coverage there, but I might have another part of the Mark Levinson interview before Munich starts. And then, like I said, a whole week after Munich, I'm going to be doing a tour of Italy and some surprise facility tours to come on that. So stay tuned for that. But what I have today is a video that Dave, who you've seen on my channel many times, a Bacch4Mac user and a big aficionado and fan, and he was in the room at Expona helping people understand it. Actually ran the room for an hour while with Mike Sweck while we were doing the presentation downstairs. And he's become an expert on the Bacch4Mac and interfacing it with analog rigs and using all the interfaces with the RME, which I don't even use here because I don't have a turntable rig. And so I wanted to get this video in your hands in terms of, for those of you interested in the Bacch4Mac, for the nuanced type stuff that you can do with it. Again, it's a more deconstructed type product to meet a budget point. Edgar wants this in the hands of as many people as possible. He's got stuff intro version as low as $900, and obviously state-of-the-art cost no object stuff as high as $54,000, and tries to give you at each level as much as possible. But there are sacrifices that have to be made. The audio is pretty much the high-end product with the DAC, everything pristinely clocked and optimized in that one chassis. And nobody's returned that for a Dio without the DAC. So the DAC alone, I told him he could sell that thing and call it a $30,000 DAC and beat all these other contenders out there. But for Edgar to make a DAC to compete in the audiophile realm, that's really nothing to him. He can do that very easily. But to do what he does on top of that, the ORC and the 3D processing, the Bach, that is what he focuses on. But that's the product. If you need all the inputs, outputs, need a standard cool chassis, everything, linear power supply, that's the product, the Bach product that most dealers can sell. I'm the only one that can sell the Bacch4Mac. It's got the link in the description if you want to buy it and join my membership group. That's one of the perks. But you can do a lot with the Bacch4Mac, and there's not a whole lot of compromises if you're not afraid of doing some of the jimmy rigging that needs to be done, using the RME, using a Mac Mini, which you heard in Mark Levinson's interview. Mac Mini is a perfectly fine server, and it's really what a lot of people Macs are mastered, the music is mastered on. So having this bias, and I actually will have when I come back, I'm going to do an open challenge. Mac Mini versus anybody's server that they want, blind test. I'll bring one from the Bach, and let's see if we can find anybody that can tell the difference between a Mac Mini as your server, Taiko, whatever it is. Anybody got one? Open challenge. When I get back in town and stop traveling, I'll be happy to do that challenge and film it for you guys to see. But what I wanted to do is release this video that Dave did. It goes into the weeds. It's going to be not for everybody that's going to enjoy this. But if you have a Bacch4Mac and want a nuanced explanation on how to hook up different interfaces, the things that he's done, converting different cabling to different ones that'll suit his products. And for those that are interested in the Bach and knowing how versatile it is, even at the Bacch4Mac level, this will be a very valuable video for you. So enjoy and stay tuned for a lot from Munich coming soon.
I have made several Bacch4Mac videos, and there's been a lot of interest shown, but there's still a little bit of confusion as far as people say, okay, it sounds interesting. I like what I'm hearing, but how can I make it work for me? How does it connect into my system? Will it work for me? And that's what this video is all about. Now, recently, there's been a very good review by Tom Martin of Absolute Sound, who has placed the Bacch4Mac by Theoretic Applied Physics as Product of the Year. Now, think about that for a moment. He's talking about a Mac Mini, an unmodified Mac Mini, at the core of his system, Product of the Year for the Absolute Sound. Now, that really says something. So anyway, let's get down to it, and let's make some connections.
The Bacch4Mac is the entry-level system by Theoretic Applied Physics. It consists of two parts. You have the Mac Mini, and you have the Babyface Pro by RME. Now, right now, I have the Babyface Pro turned around. We're looking at the back side. I find it the orientation better this way, easier access for me for inputs and outputs. Right in front are the two microphone inputs on the right-hand side. These are for the in-ear mics that create the Bach and the ORC filters. To the left are two analog outputs. Now that is because this RME unit can be used on its own to complete a full system. That means you can connect these outputs directly to your preamp or to your power amp using the internal DAC here and the volume control within the Bach program. Now, I have not used it that way myself, although I've heard about some people that have, and they're extremely surprised, by the sound quality. They were using it that way because they currently did not have a DAC and they were waiting on theirs to come in. Now, RME is a company that Edgar works with very closely, and he has the RME equipment in his spatial audio laboratory at Princeton University. It's what he chooses to use, and that's a university that could have any test equipment in the world that they would want to use to work with. And yet the RME stuff is what Edgar uses because he's had it tested. He's tested it himself empirically and through listening tests and have found it to be absolutely transparent. And it just simply works. And if it didn't work, you would not be looking at it right here. You would be looking at as something else. Now, as simple as this system is, these two pieces, just remember this is the system, even though it's entry level, that made Product of the Year for the Absolute Sound. On the back left-hand side, you can see there's a coax cables that are going to TRS jack adapters. Those are coming from my phono preamplifier. And down below here, you will see there's another pair just hanging free. Those are coming from the head amp from my open reel. Now, being this is an entry-level system, I have to swap. There's only one pair of analog inputs, so I've got to switch cables back and forth depending upon which analog source I would like to listen to. That's one of the things you give up going entry level compared to going to the more elegant single box solutions that Theoretic Applied Physics has. And with those, you get more inputs, more outputs, and you get an elegant, beautiful piece of equipment to look at. And there's a lot of other things we'll talk about in a bit that by going up the food chain you receive. Now on the back left side, or right side, that is a Toslink digital cable. Now that is connected to my digital sources that go into the RME. Remember, this is basically just a recording interface that collects all signals, analog and digital, and gets them over to the Mac Mini, for Bach processing. Now my two digital sources, I've got my Proceed Disk Transport. It's an oldie, but a goodie. And then I also have my SOTM streamer down here. And what you're going to find often is that with your digital sources, you may not have an optical output. For whatever reason, they're just not included. And so you have to go through conversion. And right down here, on top, you can see the one in the front is coax going over to optical, over to Toslink, and the one in the back is USB for my streamer going over to optical. Now what I do, for convenience sake, I just switch the optical cable at the very back of these converters. Instead of, running two cables over and then changing at the Babyface Pro. Now in an earlier video, I talk all about, my testing with the Toslink cable, with the converters, and I did not want to use Toslink at all. I had bad impressions of it just from things I've heard. And anyway, you can watch the video, but you'll find out that I had nothing to be concerned about, as there was nothing negative that I found using Toslink. Now there's something that's interesting that you need to know about the unit here, and that is the sources, at both analog and digital, are live going into here, meaning that you don't have to switch from one source to another source to have it processed and to hear it through the Bacch program. And all that means is if you want to play a record, you run your turntable, drop the needle, and it's going to happen. Same as digital. And I know you're thinking, okay, well, what about noise? I mean, if I'm listening to digital and my analog input is live at the same time, am I going to hear noise underlying that digital signal coming from, say, my phono preamp? In my case, that answer is no. I'm using a Sutherland, which is an extremely quiet, phono preamp, and my open reel is using a de Havilland, the 222, which is a tube unit, and it is noisy. It can be noisy, but you can see it's off right now, and I only have it on when I'm actually using it. So if this was plugged in to the Babyface Pro, it would be dead quiet. My Sutherland at any volume level is dead quiet, and so I do not have that issue at all. Now, if you do have a noisy phono preamp, all you have to do is you unplug it and let them hang just like that. And, that's all taken care of. Once again, that's one of the other, when you go entry level with the budget system, you have to give up certain amenities. Things are a little bit more difficult to do if you consider plugging and unplugging difficult, that is. For me, it's a non-issue. But as you go up the food chain, you don't have to worry about that. You don't have to worry about converting, optical to something else or something else to optical. They have varied inputs. And, there's a lot of other things with the one box solutions that, are of great benefit. Now, for a lot of us, this is pretty much how we're going to be hooking up our system. We're going to have an analog source, we'll have a digital source, and then down here in front, you can see a USB cable. That is your connection over to the Mac Mini. Now, I've talked about external sources getting into the Bacch for processing. Now, with this, you also have internal digital sources, meaning that, for example, I use Roon. Now, if you want to, you could use this as your Roon core. Now, my Roon core is somewhere else on the network. And so, but I do have a Roon bridge installed, which allows this to become an endpoint. And as an endpoint, it is also a streamer. And in fact, you can see it right down here. I have my, it comes up as an endpoint. And I have my other endpoints here. No, I do not have my SOTM turned on right now. Or if I did, you would see it as one of the selection choices. So, and that's one of the things you can do. You can switch back and forth between your digital input at the, Babyface Pro and your internal. And you could listen to both streamers to see what you think. And again, if you watch my earlier video, I talk about that, comparing the differences between using a lowly Mac Mini, which most would consider not worthy of even attempting to use as a streamer, compared to your own streamer. In my case, I found no issues at all. That it's easy to use, it works, it sounds good. I just have no issues doing that. Now, there's something that else you need to know. There is a difference between having a digital source coming in from the Babyface Pro and using an internal digital source such as Roon. And over on your Bacch screen, you will see, if I can get my mouse to go where I want it to go. There we go. These are USB Fireface settings. Click that. And here we go. You can see we have at clock source, we have internal. And if I go here, we have optical in as an option. Now, if I wanted to listen to, say, a digital source coming into the Babyface Pro, such as my transport or an external, my SOTM streamer, I would go optical in. That would be my selection. Now, since if I'm listening to my Roon and my endpoint on the Bacch4Mac, I have it switched to internal. This keeps the clocks correct for the system. That is something that you need to adjust back and forth depending upon how you're listening. Now, from here, what you do, you have the USB cable that connects the Mac Mini over to your DAC. Now, I have a Holo Audio, the May DAC. It has a very well-made, optically isolated USB input. So I'm not concerned about connecting directly to a computer like that. I have no issues with that whatsoever. Now, if you have an older DAC or DAC that does not isolate the USB as well, there are devices you can use to, if you feel you need to clean a USB signal to isolate it. I don't have that issue, and to be honest, I really haven't talked to anybody who's had a problem connecting directly to the Mac Mini in that way. Now, I think for most of us, this is probably pretty much how we'll be using a system. You're going to have a few analog sources, maybe, digital sources. You could connect Babyface Pro directly to the Bacch4Mac Mini. That in turn is connected to your DAC. And that is pretty much very simple. That is all that happens. And I hear some people saying, okay, I get this. It's a simple system, a simple hookup. But what about me? I have a complex system. I have subwoofers, I bi-amp. I have a tri-amp system. Will the Bacch4Mac, will it work for me as well? And the answer there is yes. Over here at the very top, you will see of the screen, you see we have modules. When I click on modules, I come all the way down, Bach crossover, boom. Now this is a crossover designed by Edgar. And so it is impeccable. It works, and it works great. With this crossover, you can bi-amp and you could tri-amp. When using the built-in crossover, it's recommended to upgrade the Babyface Pro to the Fireface UCX2 by RME. It has multiple inputs and outputs, multiple DACs, which makes bi-amping and tri-amping very easy to do. Now, the Babyface Pro can also be used to bi-amp. Now, I have not done this myself. I know that there are internal changes to the program that need to be made, different routings, and you can get with Edgar on that if this is something you're interested in, and he will steer you in the right direction. Now, as far as single box, like say the Audio, that is a definite way to go. is very easy to biamp, triamp, has multiple outputs, multiple output DACs, an excellent analog to digital converter. It's a full-fledged preamp. It's these units are quite something, and they're really, really great to look at. And they're really something to consider, especially if you have an issue working with computer audio. Now, don't get me wrong. It's not that you have to interface with this all the time, with the Bacch4Mac. In fact, most of the time it's hands-off, hands-free operation. But there are times you need to get in there and make a few changes. It is on a computer, and every once in a while you can have a glitch, and so you need to know where to look and what to change to get things, back online again. The solutions like the Audio, well, you just push buttons and everything works, and that is very advantageous to a lot of people. Well, they don't have to worry about such things. Now, on the positive side, the Bacch4Mac, this allows you into just about the program in its entirety. Well, you can get in and it's a tweaker's delight. You could change parameters, you could adjust things to your personal system. You get more information back that you can use. And you'll have access to all the new toys that come out. You're kind of the beta tester. You get all the new things like the ORC that came out. Well, we got that first, and we've been playing with that. And so that is something exciting. It's not just a low-cost solution. It's also actually the most versatile of all the Bach programs because you have benefit of all of it. Now, those of you who do the Bacch4Mac, this is something interesting and something very good for you, for me too, is that if I choose to upgrade, let's say I want to go to the Audio, that I would get back every penny I've spent on the Bacch4Mac towards that other unit. And so it's very easy to upgrade. You don't lose anything. And not everyone does something like that. In fact, you get to keep your old unit until your new one comes in. Now that, you can't do much better than that. Well, anyway, this is my system. This is my Bacch4Mac. This is how I have it hooked up to what I have. And I think probably 90% of you are like me, and this is how you'll be using it and how you'll be connecting it. So anyway, I hope you find a video of some use.